lights are an M6 LED. Like so. Shoot. And they come on either 2.5 or 3.5 inch centers. And then you have these handy little combo clips that fit over the bulb and then clip right to you. Not real stable here. Clip right to the wire frame, like so. Move this around a bit. Wow, they need to be tuned a little bit, but that's basically the idea. Pretty simple to make. You do need to weld. Don't let that scare you. I didn't know how to weld until I taught myself, and I'm only a so-so welder, but do good enough to stick these together. So let me clear off the Grinch, and then I'll start to show you how I do it. Again, I say how I do it. There are many ways to do most of the stuff, and this is what works for me. All right, first you need to make a full-size drawing of your design. This one is a snowman. I know it might not look like it, but it is upside down to you. It is a snowman. And you have your originally only want to make 2 copies. One to use for welding and one to use when you lay out your lights. From this you need to estimate the amount of steel you're going to need. I use a digital map wheel, which gives a direct readout of the distance. So say I want to do the crown of the hat, I just run this around. Doesn't hurt if you get off the line a little bit. And it tells me that is 28.5 inches. And I write that down. And then do the next section, which would be the brim of the hat. And that comes out 26.7 inches, or close to 30 again. And I write these down, and once I get all the different sections measured and recorded, I group them together into groups of 72 inches. That way I can best make use of the steel rod I use, which generally I use it in 6-foot lengths. So, pause here. You can see my notes here. Before I figured I've got a center support for 2 foot, plus the head at 3 foot, that's 5 foot, that'll come out of one 6-foot piece. And I've got the mouth, 2 foot, 2 9-inch pieces for both the band and the nose. For another 3 foot, that's another 5-foot piece. Everything else is pretty much all 6-footers. And it turns out I need 7 6-foot pieces of steel rod. Now where you get your rod can be a problem sometimes. Your big box hardware stores carry it. They carry 6-foot lengths. And they're running around $5.45 or so a piece. You can order it online and pay less than half of that, but then you're stuck paying $25 to $30 shipping. So depending how much you order, blah blah, depends on where you should probably order the stuff. Now that we're there, let me clear this off and continue. Once you get your steel, you want to clean off the oil, grease, and dirt. I just use mineral spirits and a rag, of course. Just wipe it off. Simple. That makes it a lot more pleasant to work with, being reasonably clean. And you're also doing some needed surface preparation before painting. I can't really see that because the rag wasn't really clean when I started, but this is the jig I use for 98% of the bending I do. I found the plans for this on the internet. It consists of 2 pieces of 3/4 inch plywood glued together, giving you a base of 1.5 inches thick. This is about 7 by 6 inches, but that's not that important. I drilled 3 holes, 1 inch diameter, in the base. They're about 3/8 inch apart and at a 90-degree angle. I drilled them using a Forstner bit in the drill press, but there are other ways to do it, of course. To use it, you put a 1 inch by 4 inch pipe nipple into 2 of the holes. Then you can put your rod between the pipe nipples and pull, and it'll bend just fine. If you run out of clearance on one side or the other, you can take one of them and move it to the other hole, and then you have a different angle of attack. I'll show you how that's done in just a moment. Now going back to the diagram, to determine where to make the bends, take my piece of rod and place it on my drawing and mark where I want to start the bend right there. It's just a little one, and again we're going to bend it over starting here and up to here. And back to the jig. I'll start right here. There's just a little bit of a bend there. A little bit there, and we go up here a little bit. And you just nibble it along there. And we go up to here where we had a bigger bend. Now I'm going to check that and go back to the drawing. Hopefully you can see I need just a little bit more of a bend right here. So back to the jig. When I get a piece hanging over like this, I'll put a support under it to try to keep it from sagging and keeping the piece from being flat. So I need just a little more right here. And now back to the drawing real quick. Now I have a bigger bend here. Just get around the end of this. I'm running into problems here, running out of room with all the junk on the bench. So, as I said, just flip that around and back at it. I better check this. Need a little more right there, if I can. Once again. Now coming back the other way. so. And too much, go back a little. Come out. Starting to look a lot better. Back again. Whoops. A little bit more. Now go back to the little make. Now hopefully you can see the piece is not flat. Fix that. The easiest way is to put it on the floor and beat on it with a hammer. Now what I do is put a couple feet on it and take my hammer. It's just a 3-pound hammer, and tap around and turn it over. Do the same thing. And it should be flattening out. Put a little bit more here. Now it's just looking pretty good. Now, after you beat the piece flat, you want to check it against your drawing and make sure it hasn't moved very much. This is soft steel, so it is a little flexible. Next, you want to cut this piece off, and I marked it there. And you can use bolt cutters. I don't recommend anything less than 24-inch because it does take a little effort. I don't like the bolt cutters because what they actually do, I guess, is pinch off a piece rather than cut it. And so you're left with a chisel-like point on the end. And I find myself grinding that flat all the time. So I just went and bought a cutoff wheel and used that to do all my cutting. It makes a nice square cut, and I can make angle cuts if I want or whatever. So I'm going to cut this piece off and then start bending the brim, which will come out of the same piece of steel. Next, I'm going to cut out the brim and then weld the two pieces together. I recommend cutting or bending and cutting one or two pieces and then welding rather than cutting everything at once. If you cut everything at once, if you're a little bit off here and a little bit off here, you could be a foot or more off at the other end. So I say it's weld as you go. So I'll show you the bending, but not the measuring. So hang on here. Sometimes tapping on the steel with a hammer won't flatten it out well enough. And some of those times you can just take the steel, grab hold of it, and give it a little twist. And you get a little closer. And keep this on the camera. A little bit more to even it up, and that'll work for what I want right here. Ta-da. Another reason to have an extra copy of your drawing is in case your working copy catches fire while you're welding. Well, the snowman is almost finished. If you look, you can see the supports I added on each side. He's added a little rigidity to it, and they also turn into the ground spikes down at the bottom. The cross piece gives you a little something to push with your foot when you're putting it into the ground, and it also keeps the bottom of the frame out of the wet grass and stuff. I do recommend pre-punching the hole before you try to stab these into the ground. I usually just use the same piece of steel as what the spike is. Well, last year my rocky ground bent the steel I was using, so I've gone to a heavier cold rolled, I think it's 1144 stress-proof steel. It hopefully will hold up a little bit better. Normally I just use a 1/4 inch rod for my support and ground spike, sometimes a 5/16, depending on the weight, etc. For the snowman, I'm using a 3/8. The main reason being I'm going to have 2 removable arms on each side, and I'm mounting those into some eye bolts. And to mount the eye bolts, I drilled the 3/16 inch rod and just bolted them in. And 3/16 is the smallest diameter I was comfortable with drilling a 3/16 inch hole. So that's why I'm going with the 3/8 inch rod. Next step, the next main step is to paint. And I just use this spray appliance epoxy. There's a couple different brands out there. It works real well. It is a spray. I just hang these wireframes from a tree and spray as best I can. You are trying to hit a 1/4 inch rod with a spray can, so there's a lot of overspray and a lot of waste. The big advantage is the spray paint is only about $4 a can or a little less, so it is cheap. Now it's time to determine how many light strings I need. I use these M6 LED lights. They come on 2.5 and 3.5 inch centers, and they come in increments of 5 lights from 10 to 50 light strings, and increments of 10 from 50 to 100 light strings. And to get your colors, you have these combo clips which slip over the bulb like so, and then you have a clip which clips right onto your wire frame and holds it secure. If you can see that or not. Ta-da. So, combo clip clips right into your wire frame. And just around and around. If you end up with light bulb hanging out in the middle of nowhere where you don't want a light, there are these blackout caps which just slip over the bulb and black out the light, solving that problem. Now these combo clips come in a variety of colors, including black, lime green. This is blue, red, light brown, dark brown. There's a yellow, a gray, and so forth, many, many more. Lay out the lights is a 25 light string with combo clips installed, and every fifth combo clip is a different color. That simply makes it easier to count. And on the snowman, what I will probably do is start out here and work my way around and come across the hat band and up around the crown of the hat, around the brim, drop down to the eyes, and come along another eye, and come around the head, and jump up and do the mouth. Here I'll jump up and catch the nose, I hope, and then come back down to the rest of the mouth and teeth, and then jump back and come back this way. And the next, another section will be the middle section, and the last section will be the base section. So what I do is start out if I can get this untangled. There we go. Start out here. Oh, these lights are on 3.5 inch centers. I prefer to work with those because if I need to stretch someplace, like dropping down to put the eyes in, it gives me a little more room and overall just a little bit more flexibility. So I just keep going around here. Jump over to here. Now if things get a little tight, you can usually come back and move your lights, put them a little closer together. Or, as the case may be, make them a little further apart if you need to fill in a gap. There we go. And when you get down to the end, you just start peeling off the first ones and start them over at the other end. But first you want to record how many lights and what color combo clips you need. Now you want to mark which way you put the lights and the direction, because in the week 10 days it takes to get them, you're liable to forget how you ran the lights. And this will continue down this way. So this is string 1, and to right here is that's 25 of them, and I've got 4 blue and red, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 10 red for the hat band, and then I've got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 blue, so now I can peel off the start. Come back. Now, I'm not just going to use a bunch of 25 light strings. This will be a continuation. Make sure it's going to stretch. Be a little tight, but I think I can make it work. Looks like it'll be okay. So this one will go here. And this is one of the reasons why I like the 3.5 inch. I can drop the eyeballs down from the brim of the hat. Now when you do this for the final with the appropriate colored clips, you can take and stick the wire back behind the frame and even use some cable ties and tie it up and make it real nice and neat, but for just laying it out, this is going to work for me on this. So we keep going around. Now here, I'm going to jump up. There we go again, another 25 lights. And I'll keep doing the same thing all the way around and get all parts of it together. I think you should get the idea, I hope. So there you go. Well, I finished painting the Santa, etc. It took a can and a half of spray. One thing I do recommend for these spray paints is one of these pistol grip handles. They just clamp right on and then you pull the trigger and it sprays, of course. They're easier on your hand, they're quicker, your aim is better. I wouldn't spray without one. So what does it cost to make one of these wireframes plus lights? I just placed an order for $100 worth of lights and combo clips, and if you figure possibly around $50 or so for steel, etc., you're looking at $150. One time I guesstimated that it would cost about half of what it would cost to buy a very similar frame. Of course, if you're making your own, you can make it however you want, which is a big advantage. So there you go. Right now I'm laying out the lights on the wire frame. I'm using a 25 light string with combo clips installed. Every fifth combo clip is a different color just to make it easier to count how many I've used. And along here I come to the end of the string and I just start clipping lights on again. Starting from the other end. When I put these on permanently, I will of course take a little more care with the wires to get them tucked back behind, etc. And see, check where I've been on my map. Got a little messy here. I changed my mind. I think this shows up. So I come along this way, and I'm up going this way. Ooh, that's a mess. That's an erasure there. So I want to run one light this way and then go back down this way. Whoops. Now I want to mark what I've done on my map. If this make sure you can see this. We'll give it a shot. So I came around this way. Let's put a couple arrows in. And I came back this way for one, and then back this way. And all the way down to about here, and that's the end. So that's the end of a 50 total. Now start again here and go around and end up wherever. So I strongly recommend marking it on the map, because for myself anyway, there's no way I'd remember that I took a detour here and one here and then back. I'd be reinventing the whole thing. So anyway, this works well for me. This is the back side of the snowman. I have all the lights on it. And for this piece, all the strings plug together into one continuous string. You know, string 1 plugged into string 2, plugged into string 3, etc. Normally you aren't going to have that happen. You're going to have a loose plug here and one here and one over here. And you need to tie those together with zip cord and vampire plugs. But not yet on this one. However, when I put the arms in, here's the eye bolts I talked to you about before. I will need some, so let me put these in and see what I get. Oh, yes, and also where I plug two strings together, I've got an excess of wire. For that, just pin the wire to the frame with a couple of cable ties. Now it looks like here the two arms will plug together. I assume it's the same on the other side. So it looks like we'll need one vampire plug female here, and one on the other side, and hook on here, and then we'll run a tail down to the male end. So I'll do that. You can find out about vampire plugs and zip cord elsewhere for sure. The only caution I'll say on using vampire plugs is they are polarized, and if you want to use a flasher sequencer, the inexpensive ones you can get for $15–20 do not work with polarized plugs. You need to get the more expensive $65–70 polarized units to work with vampire plugs. So let me get this going and then we'll see what it looks like.